Hey 49ers fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into Chat Sports, and today we have a fresh 49ers news and rumor video, the last one before the very first 49ers preseason game. Depending on when you watch this, just a couple days away, we take on the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it's so close, right, to seeing actual meaningful, not just scrimmages, right, not just 11 on 11s, but meaningful one-on-one team versus team. Cannot wait for the first preseason game. But again, a lot of news and rumors videos. Let's go ahead and jump right into the first one. The first of which is all surrounding the defense and how excellent it has looked during camp. The D-line has been super dominant, even with the absences of Buckner and, of course, Dee Ford with their injuries that are happening right now. We'll talk about the Dee Ford injury a little bit later on. But head coach Kyle Shanahan, listen, he's met with the media multiple times and has just praised how good the D-line has been, which is which has therefore made the secondary a lot better. Shanahan said to reporters in a quote, "So far, I think the defense has definitely had the better side. I mean, they've been teeing off the front, and they've been much harder to block." Listen, Shanahan is excited about what he sees, and everything I've heard is that the defense has truly been I don't say elite this year or elite this offseason, but when you have a defensive line like we're going to have this year in San Francisco, and mark my words, it's going to be easily the best position group out of any position group on our entire team. The front four getting pressure is going to help the secondary so much. I cannot express this enough, how great the secondary can potentially be with the front four getting pressure, getting sacks, and getting hits, right? This could be a completely different defense than what it was last year. Right now, I'll throw up on the screen, these are some of the defensive stats that we saw last year. 13th in total defense. They were 28th in points per game allowed. They were last in the league in interceptions. Only had 2 interceptions all last year. That's it. That's ridiculous. And 22nd in sacks with 39. Listen, the biggest improvement on this team was always the defense, what they did this offseason, but I think we could see a massive leap into essentially a top 10 in total defense this year. The interceptions are for sure going to go up, and the Pro Football Focus secondary ranking, we talk about a lot on this show, how it was dead last year, is going to come up. The secondary is going to get better just by default, the fact the defensive line has gotten better as well. Okay, all right, coming up here later on this week, we're going to do a 49ers mailbag, so get your questions in down below. You know how the drill works. Use the hashtag 49ers, comment your question, ask me, and then I will go ahead and answer it. You can also DM me on Twitter at RealThomasMott as well. So again, just quickly here, before we continue on the news and rumors, you need to go ahead and get your questions in. That way I can see them, and I'll answer them later on this week. All right, moving right along. The wide receivers, got to mention them. Got to talk about the wide receivers because I've said the defense is going to be the most improved. Well, I've also said the wide receivers are the one position battle that we got to really hone in on, especially as we get to week 1 of the preseason. Unfortunately, it's looking like no wide receiver is really starting to stand out. The wide receiver groups as a whole, from what we're hearing and reading, is that it's been pretty average, pretty below average. And head coach Kyle Shanahan mentioned this whenever he spoke to the media, essentially saying that he has a good idea of the guys that we have, now they're wired ability-wise, and no, the picture isn't getting clearer, but I just think we got a bunch of guys who can compete, and I don't see any of these guys that are for sure starters or for sure backups. I think there's some real competition there. Now, that was politically correct coaches speak for the 49ers receivers have not looked very good. I'll just go ahead and take the liberty there. That'll be my opinion, but I totally 100% stand behind this. The Niners wide receivers have not had a great camp. In the past, we talked about this. Dante Pettis struggled early with drops. Jordan Matthews looked quote-unquote solid, but he's still not a true number 1 wide receiver, right? This is always going to be the problem. Hurd has had splashes, but has gotten into fights. Deebo Samuel's been up and down. The receiving corps so far in training camp has not looked that good. And the hope is that when we get to real game action, someone or someone's can rise to the top and really be like, all right, here's our true 1, here's our true 2, here's what the starting 4 is going to look like. Because at the moment, I'm going to guess what I think the depth chart's going to look like. But again, we have no idea. Remember last year, this is what the depth chart looked like last year based off of receiving yards and who was the most productive, right? So it was basically Marquise Goodwin was the number 1 target, even though he wasn't the number 1 leading receiver. But it was Goodwin, then Pettis. Bourne was actually the leading receiver in terms of catches and receiving yards. Pierre Garçon was up there, and then Trent Taylor at number 5. Now, that can all be mixed up this year because of the new additions, right? Remember, we went out and signed Jordan Matthews this offseason, who I've been told is a lock to at least make the team. All right, so there is one wide receiver on the bubble, whether it's Taylor or Bourne or Matthews. Matthews should be making the team from what I've been told. But compare his numbers to Dante Pettis last year. Again, Pettis, didn't play in every single game, wasn't a factor in all 16. But the catch numbers, the catch yards, the touchdowns, 7 more catches for Pettis, 167 more yards for Pettis, 3 more touchdowns. It's like, boy, we got a lot of work to do. And the hope is that Pettis has a better year, and I've talked about the fact that Dante should be the #1 wide receiver in this offense this year, but again, no one's really stood out in training camp. So, my projected depth chart, and again, they don't have a true #1 wide receiver, so this is going to change a lot, but I see it as Pettis 1, Deebo Samuel 2, Goodwin 3, Matthews 4, Hurd 5, and then if Bourne makes the team, he'd mix in there between 5 and 6 as well. But again, right? It's not like you're going to have Pettis on the field. He's the true #1. You got to stay on there every single snap. No, they'll mix Hurd in there. They'll mix Bourne in there. They'll move Matthews into the slot. They can see where Deebo Samuel fits his best. This is why we got to talk about it, because on the 10th, when they play Dallas, this is what we need to be watching. You can watch Garappolo for his one series. You watch the running back. No. This is the position group we need to keep an eye on to see who's going to improve as we continue throughout training camp, because I'll be honest, how Shanahan said it, this has not been a very positive, excellent camp for the 49ers wide receivers so far. Question for you guys. Who will catch the most touchdowns this year for the San Francisco 49ers? And don't put George Kittle in there, right? That's like a cop-out. Tight end. Wide receiver. Which wide receiver will catch the most touchdowns for the 49ers this year? I want to hear from you guys. Now, earlier on, as we move along here, I mentioned that Dee Ford has had an injury, and a lot of people are like, what? I didn't know that Dee Ford had an injury. So he's missed a couple of practices and will miss at least the next week due to a knee injury. There's a chance he might not be playing in the August 10th preseason opener, as he had platelet-rich plasma treatment to help with tendonitis a couple days back. So Kyle Shanahan was saying that, listen, it's okay. This is something that's happened every single camp, apparently, for him, which, if you look at the records back in Kansas City, it's like, or the records, back with his previous teams, it's like, yeah, he really didn't show that this was a thing that happened every single camp, but apparently it has. But Shanahan said, we're not worried about it. We feel good. We don't need to see a lot of him. He could have played if he needed to. If this was the playoffs, he could have played. But obviously being training camp, with a lot of other guys behind him who need reps, Dee Ford sitting out for a couple days is not a massive deal. But it is interesting because remember, right? He's had some injury history in the past. He had 2 back surgeries back in 2017 where he only appeared in 6 games. So this is kind of like a, okay, so you've had tendonitis every year, but we didn't know about it. How's that going to affect going forward? All right, you got the platelet-rich plasma treatment or whatever a couple days ago. Hopefully he's going to be fine. But this means that there are guys behind him who are going to step up. Obviously, Arik Armstead, Ronald Blair, and Nick Bosa, the rookie, are all guys that should be seeing them, pick up the slack if Dee Ford has more of an absence than a week. Again, don't expect Dee Ford in the first preseason game, so we'll really keep an eye on Nick Bosa, Arik Armstead, and Blair to see what they can do in his space. But at the same time, even if Ford was not there for a couple games, right, the defensive line is so stacked right now that I don't think it'd be a massive drop-off, but at the same time, to me, he's probably going to be our best pass rusher this year, so we're going to have to wait and see. And again, the stats you see on the screen right now, ridiculous, right? 7 forced fumbles last year, 42 solo tackles, 29 quarterback hits, and 13 sacks. So we need him on there, but it looks like it's just going to be a week or so, and then he should be able to come back from that knee tendonitis. Question for you guys here. Who will lead the team in sacks this year? Type F for Ford, type A for Armstead, or B for Bosa. I'm curious what you guys think. I think it's going to be Ford, right? Rookie defensive ends don't get a lot of sacks, so Bosa can be good without having a lot of sacks, which could happen this season. Give me Ford. I type F down below with my burner YouTube account, right? Hey, just throw that out there. Just kidding. Okay, moving on here. So the safety battle is taking shape there at the free safety. So Jimmy Ward, of course, who has the whole collarbone issue, has been starting to get some reps back in practice. Now, he's not been going full 11-on-11s recently, depending on when you've seen this video, but he's been working back onto the field, and he's been with the ones, right? So he's been the starting free safety so far. That means that Moore and Colbert have been battling for safety spot number 2 in terms of the backup free safety, and it looks like Moore is going to win that job, at least for now, because he's been getting all of the second string reps. He was splitting them, now he's getting all of them, and it looks like Colbert might be the odd man out here. So then your starting potential secondary will be Weatherspoon, Richard, and Sherman, the corners, Tart and Ward the safeties, and probably Kwan Williams as the nickelback. So that's what we're looking at right now, which again, apparently has looked pretty darn good working together this training camp because the front seven has been dominant so far, like we talked about a little bit earlier. Okay, before we move on, remember, we have a 49ers official Chat Sports YouTube channel, which you guys, if you like this video, and I know 10,000 of you guys plus a week do, you gotta subscribe, right? www.com or www.chatsports.com/49ers is the place to go. Give it a sub. That way you only get 49ers content along with your Chat Sports content as well. Trust me, guys. Subscribe to this. I know you're going to like it. My stuff goes out on there. That's the best way to find it. So go ahead. Come on. Keep it up. Go ahead. Just go ahead and subscribe to it after this video. All right. We have a fun little topic here. So at 49ers training camp the other day, the 49ers decided to run a pass to the quarterback. So they did a type of a Philly special type thing where they threw the ball to Jimmy Garappolo, who made the catch, but all the reporters and observers noted that it was across the middle, and he would have been drilled had this actually been in real life, like, you know, decapitated. It would have been that bad. So apparently, in a post-practice interview, Kyle Shanahan was with the NFL Network and basically said that, you know, the 49ers CEO Jed York came to him and said, we're not going to run that again, right? And Shanahan's like, yeah, we're probably going to pull that one out of there. Remember, Jimmy Garappolo is the one player we need to see play 16 games. Talk about Dee Ford, you talk about running backs, talk about whatever. No, Garappolo needs to play in all 16 games. He had the ACL, he missed 13 games last season. He's at risk of, you know, missing out on more games when we already paid him this massive contract where he has 4 years remaining on a 5-year, $137.5 million deal. He's got to be on for 16 games. I've said this before, this is not a hot take at all. If he does not play a full 16-game slate and gets injured big time again, the 49ers are going to have to look at other options, whether it's drafting another quarterback or possibly trying to move off of him, because it's just, you just can't keep doing this, right? We can't be having the old Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard backup coming in week 5, whatever. He has got to play 16 games. I'm fine with trick plays, and there were like 20-plus passes thrown by wide receivers and running backs last year in the NFL. The Philly specials made it very, very popular. I'm fine with throwing it to Jimmy Garappolo, but get ones where it's like Nick Foles in the Super Bowl and he's actually wide open and untouched, all right? I'm just saying, let's just leave that out there right now. Should the 49ers have their own version of the Philly special? What would we call it? The Gold Special? The Nugget Special? I can't think of any good names right now. You think they should have a special play like that where they throw it to Jimmy Garappolo? Type Y for yes, N for no down below. I want to hear from you guys as usual. And finally here, the one that I really think we're going to get some good interaction from. Not that we have good interaction all along, right? Jam-packed episode. But the good interaction right here, I'm going to see the feisty comments down below, has to do with Joe Staley and his playoff comments. Right, so the star offensive lineman spoke to the media on Monday and hinted about the fact that we must make it to the playoffs this year. Remember, 49ers have not made the playoffs since 2013 when we went to the NFC title game. 2013! Good Lord, it's a long time. Well, listen, they've rebuilt. They've added a lot of new players. Jimmy Garappolo there. Maybe now is the time. Here's the quote. It's short. Joe Staley said, I think we got to go to the playoffs. From there, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And remember, a lot of key offseason additions: Dee Ford, Nick Bosa, Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, Robbie Gould, throw in Jordan Matthews, Jason Verrett. Like, they signed a ton of people to try and make this a team that can go from being the second pick in the draft this past year to actually being a 8-win, 9-win, 10-win playoff team. But is it realistic for them to make the playoffs this year? That's the question we need to ask you guys. Listen, the past 5 seasons, 49ers have gone 4-12, 6-10, 2-14, 5-11, and an 8-8. It's been bad. Now, I know the head coaches, you had the whole problem with head coaches and the quarterbacks, all that issues. You now have the right head coach and the right quarterback. You made the right offseason additions. And Joe Staley, who's been there forever, is going to be like 35 at the end of August this year, is like, hey, we need to make the playoffs this year. Like, if playoffs are bust in terms of Joe Staley's mind. And I agree. Now, will they actually make it? The NFC's tough, guys. Like, and can you win your own division? I mean, the Rams are there, the Seahawks are there, the Cardinals are going to be better. So winning the division to make a playoff spot 1 through 4 is kind of hard to do. Then you got to be a wild card team, and there are a lot of good teams out there. I think, again, like I've said, 8 wins is a good season. But at the same time, there are some veterans on the team like Joe Staley who are like, no, we need to make the playoffs this year. And so I'm curious for the final question here. Do you guys think the Niners will make the playoffs? Like, and be honest, right? Because we get caught up as 49er fans and we go, oh, well, yeah. I mean, they're pumped about it. They're going to make the playoffs. In your heart of hearts, If you had to put money on it, do you think the 49ers will make the postseason this year? I want to hear. I'm reading these ones. Scroll down below. Let me know. All right, that's it. That's all the time we have for today in terms of this 49ers news and rumors videos. Again, a couple of quick things. 49ers mailbag later this week. Hashtag 49ers. Ask me a question down below. I will answer it on the air. So get those done right now. And of course, be sure to subscribe to One Chat Sports and also to subscribe to our 49ers official Chat Sports YouTube page. www.chatsports.com/49ers is the place to do it. All right, again, that's it. That's all the time we have for today. For Chat Sports, I'm Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.